Hey guys, for your assignment this week, we're going to do something that's called reflecting. That means we're going to go back, we're going to look at our artwork, and we're going to make some changes. We're going to see what we did good and see what needs to be improved. I want you to go back to your still life drawing that you did last week. So that was the last assignment we did, was the still life. That's the one that I want you to get out, and we're going to look at that. We're going to address 4 different things. We're going to look at making sure that you use all of the space on your paper. We're going to make sure that you have done something with the background in your artwork. I want to make sure that the third thing we talk about is having very little white space left. And the last thing we need to look at is the neatness of your artwork. All right. When I made the video last week, I showed myself drawing a still life. Now I went back and finished it, and it looks like this. All right. So the first thing that I want us to talk about is making sure that you use all of the space on your paper. So my paper does have all of the space used up. All right, I drew the objects large. I made sure that there was something behind the objects, and I made sure that there was something under the objects. The tallest bottle goes all the way up to the top edge of the paper, and some of these shadows come down pretty close to the bottom edge of the paper. So make sure you're using all the space. Some of the work that I got looks a little bit like this, where some of you might have just drawn one thing in the middle of your paper. That's a great start, but that's not a still life. So you want to make sure that you have more than one object. I guess you can just have one object. I don't want to tell you no, not to do it that way, because I know some of the artists' work that I showed you did have just one object. But if you only want to use one, you can. So I'll just kind of leave that up to you. But you do need to make sure that all of this space that's empty has been dealt with. All right. So if you want to add more items, you can. I'll just leave that up to you. All right. The background. The background is the area behind the object. It's not the back of the paper. Behind the object. That is called the background. So what can you add to the background? Well, if you had your items sitting on a table, maybe there's something behind the table, like a window or a cabinet or even another room. Draw those items in. All right. If you want to, you might want to do something completely different and just add a pattern in the background. And that's what I've done here. I just added a polka dot pattern. It looks kind of like polka dot wallpaper. Okay. Make sure that the bottom has been dealt with. So what is your object or objects sitting on? A table. Right now, this little cup looks like it's floating. There's nothing underneath it. There's no shadows under it. So it's going to look like it's just in midair. So make sure that you add a table or something underneath it. To draw the table, just come about halfway up your paper and just draw that horizontal line behind the objects. And there you have it, instant table or surface. Add some shadows. And now it looks like the items are actually sitting on the surface. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is having very little white space. I know some of you drew some objects and you didn't really color anything. I didn't see anybody use paint yet. So you're going to make sure that no matter what items you use, whether it's color pencils, crayons, markers, watercolor, that you use those items on all of the space. You can leave a little bit white, if you have highlights or what have you, that's fine. But make sure that everything has been shaded or colored in. I did leave some white highlights here on the glue bottle, and I left some white around the caps because those items I felt were white and they needed to, you know, show that, or I wanted to show that. All right. But mainly everything has been colored or painted in. For this particular still life, I added crayon. I think I colored some of the polka dots with crayons. I think I used Sharpie to outline, and I also used a black pen to add some shadows on parts of these bottles. Can you see that? And then I used watercolor for the rest. You did not get watercolor in your art kit, but if you go to Walmart or Target or Hobby Lobby or someplace, you can get a very inexpensive set of watercolor paint. Let's see here. It's the type of paint, when you open it, you have all these different colors to use. All right, I recommend that you get a set of these for future projects. All right, so making sure that everything is filled in. The last thing that you need to look at is how neat your artwork is. If you have sloppy coloring, you need to go back in and smooth it out. There should not be any sloppy work turned in. You don't want your artwork to look like it was rushed or that it only took you 1 or 2 minutes to do it. All right, so go back and check out that neatness. All right, so you can use watercolor markers, color pencils, crayon. If you only want it to be a pencil drawing, it can also only be a pencil drawing. But just make sure that you are reflecting on what you've done and that you go back and that you make some improvements on your artwork. Use all the space on your paper. Make sure you have a background. Make sure that there's very little white space left, and make sure that your artwork is neat. All right, any questions, feel free to call, send me an email, and I will talk to you guys later. All right, bye.